Welcome to the latest episode of Branding the Experience, where we discuss ways where we can create environments where employees actually want to come to work and customers want to keep coming back. Hi, I'm Ken Bader, your host for Branding the Experience, also the founder of Bader Training and Consulting, and the author of the book, The Formula for Business Success Equals B plus C plus S, a discussion on brand culture strategy alignment. And our subject today is understanding and remembering the experience in our strategy. Because a lot of times when we get into strategic planning or are compiling a strategic plan for our coming year, which a lot of us are doing right now at this time of year, I'm actually taping this in October, we think about our goals and objectives, but we don't always think about how that strategy or how those particular initiatives affect our brand and culture. Obviously, given that this is my foundation, the B plus C plus S formula, I think that we need to be thinking about all three at all times. More importantly, think about the ripple effect of everything. And I have a great example of remembering and understanding the experience in your strategy from one of my clients. I won't mention their name, mainly because I haven't cleared it with them, and one of my standards is I don't talk about clients and their particular issues or what they're doing unless they give me permission first, because I hold that very sacred to me, that what my clients and I speak of are between my client and I, unless it's some type of an extreme situation, or if they give me permission to talk about them. But they gave me a great example today because we're in the process of strategizing for next year, and one of those pieces and steps of building the strategy was to review the fees and pricing of the business. In fact, they had one of their executives do a whole fee and pricing study, which was a number of pages, and gave some scenarios and some ideas on how the organization could not only make some more money, but also save some money. And there were 3 or 4 specific examples in there, but the one that I want to talk about specifically that really applies to understanding the B and the C when we're working on the S is they determined in the study that obviously the organization could save some costs if they shut down one of their locations on a Saturday and also cut down on their hours at their main location. Now, for a lot of us that may be CFO, CPA types, the first thing that we think of is, great, we could save some money. Let's go ahead and implement that right away and cut these hours and begin seeing the effect to the bottom line. And we don't always think, when we think just from a strategy and numbers standpoint, which is a good way of thinking about things, but not the only way. When we think from a numbers and strategy standpoint, we make that decision somewhat knee-jerk sometimes, or surface level, or arbitrarily, without thinking what are the long-term effects to our bottom line. For instance, if we just simply cut hours and our customers really liked coming at that particular time, or also in this particular example, if they enjoyed going to that specific location on a Saturday because of the convenience, then that could have a negative effect longer term or intermediate term to our bottom line because customers would leave. They would be upset. Well, you weren't thinking of me or my experience when you arbitrarily cut those hours or cut that whole day out of your other location. So therefore, I'm going to find somebody else that may care a little bit more than you do. But what my client did, which I'll gladly take a little bit of credit for it, in that I introduced them to the B plus C plus S formula, but what they did on their own was first come up with the strategy, but then think about how that would affect their brand and their culture. From a branding standpoint, they did more research and delved into the fact that, you know what, not many people come during the hours that we're going to cut back on our main location. And so if we cut back on those hours, we're going to affect a very, very few or a very small percentage of our customers that maybe, even if unfortunately we do upset maybe 2% of our customer base by bringing those hours back down, we could find maybe other ways to accommodate that 2% of our customer base, because it's going to be a better scenario, a better equation for us to save that money and only affect a very small percentage of our customer base. When it came to the Saturday hours, not only did they look at that and see, yeah, we have very, very little traffic on that Saturday. Again, we're going to affect a very small percentage of our market. But even more so than that, and this is one of the things, if not the aspect of their decision making that I thought was the most positive, is they looked at the C in part of this decision making. It's easy to say, hey, we could save money. It's also easy to say, to delve a little bit deeper and say, hey, you know what, from a branding standpoint, we're really not going to affect that many people, that many of our customers by making this change. But very rarely do I see a thought process of what does this mean to our employees? Well, in this particular case, in order to be able to staff that Saturday location with 2 people, because they wanted to have 2 people for safety reasons and for other operational issues, of course. So they had to make sure that they staffed that particular branch with 2 people. And in order to do that, some people would have to work still, while only 40 hours per week, but would have to work 6 days a week, meaning that they would have a couple of part-time days in there or something of that nature in order to accommodate that Saturday, those Saturday hours of being open at that location. And one of the things from a C standpoint, from a culture standpoint, that management thought about is that, you know what, that's not really fair to our employees. Granted, yes, they're still working 40 hours per week, which is the requirement for a full-time worker, but to actually have to come in 6 days a week is a burden on our employees. That's one more day that they have to set an alarm, or they have to think about what they're going to wear on that particular day, and another day that they may be away from their families. Even if it's only 3 or 4 hours, that's still a day that is not going to be fully with the people that they care about, and that they're going to have to manage around, per se. And felt that, you know what, that making this change is not only good for our strategy and our brand, but also for our culture. That's what I call a win-win-win. So that logic and decision-making process was so spot on. I wanted to make sure to make that our foundation for this particular episode of Branding the Experience as a prime example of how we have to remember the branded experience even in our strategic planning process. Whether we do that once a year, or hopefully once a month, or even better, as I've seen with some clients, on a weekly or even daily basis, reviewing that strategy, at least on a basic level, to understand that we're still on track. So, what can we learn from this? Well, I encourage you, as you're looking at your strategy, as you're looking at your goals, as you're looking at your objectives for the coming months and or the coming year, to think about how that particular strategy affects the overall experience for our employees and our customers. Because as I often say, in terms of the B plus C plus S formula, the questions that we're asking is, 1, what's the image we want to portray in the public? And 2, as it applies to this particular scenario, how do we create the experience that we need for and through our employees? And then the third, the strategy, is how do we drive more of the right business to our business? So in remembering, how do we create the experience, or what is the experience we need to create both for and through our employees, will help us to build a strategy that not only aligns with our brand and culture, but is supported by our brand and culture, and in turn supports that brand and culture on the other side of that circle. Thank you for spending some time with me today on Branding the Experience, and here's hoping that your strategy as you go into the next year fully supports a branded experience that both your employees and your customers are going to truly enjoy. Take care.